The day I locked that iron gate, every official who stole my father's ranch realized their $10 million park had no way in or out. But that was just the beginning of how I made them pay for taking everything we built. I still remember the sound of the bulldozers echoing across my valley. My father's ranch, my inheritance, was being flattened for public recreation. Sheriff Dugan leaned against his truck, pretending not to see my tears. "Orders from the county, Mr. Halen." "Nothing personal," he muttered without looking up. "Nothing personal?" They were stealing my bloodline, the 100 acres my father built with calloused hands and Sunday prayers. Crowds gathered, cheering as if freedom was being paved into picnic tables. They didn't know the land belonged to me, legally, rightfully, spiritually. I watched from the ridge, fists clenched, dust coating my tongue like betrayal. They promised compensation, but all I got was a check worth less than my barn roof. Before we go on, please, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I want to see how many families, parents, and neighbors are feeling this story across the country tonight. Your comment helps this message reach more people who've faced unfair HOA rules too. Reporters called it progress. I called it robbery. And behind their smiles, the county officials toasted with champagne at the opening ceremony. Legacy Ranch Holiday Park. The banner read, my father's name erased under a slogan for tourists. But even then, watching my home turn into a playground, I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I just remembered every face that smiled. That night, as the stars hid behind smoke, I swore I'd never let them sleep peacefully on stolen ground again. Revenge wasn't about rage, it was about patience. And I had more patience than they had power. For 5 long years, I lived in the shadow of what used to be ours. I rented a small cabin just beyond the county border. From my porch, I watched their shiny park expand. Parking lots, barbecue pits, and bright red picnic umbrellas stained my memories. Families laughed where my cattle once grazed. Children played tag under the oak tree where my father taught me to shoot. I smiled at them, though my chest burned like a furnace. They didn't know the laughter was built on lies. Every headline praised the officials, Mayor Connors, Councilman Witt, and their vision for community joy. But I saw their greed clearer than daylight. Land deals hidden under fake nonprofits, donations from contractors, and tax money funneling into private accounts. They thought I was broken, a forgotten rancher sipping bitterness. But I was waiting, studying maps, deeds, and ownership lines. My late father's attorney once told me, sometimes, son, you win by reading what others ignore. And one cold night, buried in a county archive, I found something they ignored, an old easement map with access rights no one had claimed. That's when my plan began forming, quiet, precise, and lawful. The kind of revenge that doesn't scream, it suffocates. I started small. Bought 5 acres at the southern ridge, cheap, overlooked, dismissed as useless marsh. It was the park's only legal access road. Then another 7 acres west, where the county trucks crossed for maintenance. I purchased under a shell company named Blue Creek Holdings. By spring, I owned every piece surrounding that park except the park itself. I became the land's silent gatekeeper. No one noticed at first. The officials were too busy posing for local news, bragging about community success. But deeds don't lie. And neither do boundaries. I filed every paper quietly, making sure my name never appeared until the final transfer. When the tax assessor updated records, I smiled. My father's ranch was gone, but I held the strings of its cage. Summer arrived. Tourists poured in. Cars lined the entry road that now belonged to me. Then one morning, I placed a single iron gate across the road. Private property. Access by permission only. By noon, park officials stormed to my cabin, demanding answers. You can't block county land, they shouted. Oh, I'm not blocking county land, I said calmly. I'm just protecting mine. The silence that followed tasted better than any victory speech. Mayor Connors himself drove out the next day, red-faced and sweating through his suit. You can't do this, Helen. This road serves the public. I offered him lemonade, pretending not to notice his shaking hands. Then the public should have read the deeds before stealing a man's ranch. He slammed the glass on my table. "We'll take it back through court." "Do that," I replied. "But check who owns the surrounding land first." His face fell. He already knew. Every route in or out passed through my property. Every inch signed and sealed. He left in silence. But I knew he'd return, with lawyers, cameras, and lies. That week, the park shut down temporarily. News stations covered the land dispute, without realizing I was the same man they once mocked. Neighbors whispered. Some called me stubborn, others called me hero. I didn't care. I just kept tightening the fence lines. Each lock I installed was justice welded in steel. Each "no trespassing" sign felt like a heartbeat returning. And when I drove past the park at night, I saw something beautiful: emptiness. The county sued me within a month, claiming I obstructed public access. Their lawyers wore expensive suits and fake confidence. But I had truth, maps, and time. The courtroom smelled of arrogance and perfume. Their argument crumbled when I presented the original easement maps, proving they'd never legally purchased access roads. Judge Wilson adjusted his glasses, frowning. "So the park is landlocked?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "By their own negligence." The room went silent. Reporters scribbled like wildfire. Connors looked pale. Witt tried to smile but failed. The judge ruled temporary closure until further review. In truth, that meant forever. When the verdict dropped, I didn't cheer. I just nodded slowly, like my father would have. They called me vindictive. But I wasn't taking revenge, I was restoring balance. As I walked out, a young reporter asked, "Mr. Halen, what will you do with all that land now?" I paused, smiled faintly. "Keep it quiet. The way it was meant to be." But deep down, I knew the storm was only beginning. Weeks later, Connors called me privately. "Let's make a deal," he said. "Sell us back the access roads. We'll pay double market price." I laughed. "You want to buy what you stole? That's poetic." "Think of the community," he pleaded. "People love that park." "Then they should love walking there," I replied. He went silent, then sighed. "You'll regret this." But I didn't. Because by now, I owned every surrounding property: North Forest, East Creek, and West Hills. A perfect ring of independence. Their $10 million project sat fenced inside, a museum of arrogance. Local papers began turning against them, calling it the park with no doors. When winter came, rain flooded the parking lot. Without maintenance trucks, even the grass grew wild again. Nature was reclaiming what bureaucracy stole. I'd sit on my porch, coffee steaming, watching hawks circle above the empty park. It wasn't just revenge, it was restoration. A whistleblower from the county office leaked documents, proof that Connors and Witt had pocketed millions through construction contracts. The scandal hit every local channel by morning. "Park officials under investigation for fraud," the headline screamed. I didn't have to lift a finger. Justice was finally doing push-ups on its own. Reporters camped outside my cabin, asking if I planned to reopen the park. "No," I said simply. "The land needs peace, not politics." The town split in half, some furious at me, others disgusted at them. Connors resigned within days. Witt disappeared to Arizona. The park gates rusted shut. I visited the old oak again, touched its bark, whispered, "We're even now, Dad." Then I planted a new sign: "Private reserve, no trespassing." It wasn't about keeping people out. It was about keeping history safe. And as the sun sank behind the hills, I finally felt something I hadn't in years: calm. Years later, the new mayor approached me, young, respectful, trying to mend old wounds. "Mr. Halen, we'd like to buy part of the land for a veterans memorial. Something meaningful." For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I saw sincerity in his eyes. "I'll think about it," I said, walking with him under the oak. "But it stays natural. No playgrounds, no profit." He nodded. "Deal." So I donated 5 acres, for free. No media, no cameras. Just a plaque that read, "To the families who fought for what was theirs." When it unveiled, veterans saluted, children placed flowers, and an old man whispered, "Thank you." That moment, I realized revenge had evolved into purpose. The rest of the park remained sealed, a monument not to spite, but to memory. Sometimes the best revenge is showing them you can still give without being taken. Now, sitting on my porch decades later, I see that park as more than land. It's a lesson carved in dirt and pride. My father's voice echoes in my mind, soft but steady. A man's worth isn't in what he loses, but how he stands afterward. They thought they'd broken me. Instead, they built the walls that trapped themselves. Kids still whisper stories about the ghost park. Some say it's cursed. I say it's poetic justice. Every rusted bench, every cracked fountain. It's a confession written in cement. I didn't ruin their dream, they did. I just showed them the mirror. And when the wind sweeps through, carrying laughter long gone, I smile. Because no bulldozer can destroy the spirit that built it first. The land remembers. The land forgives. But it never forgets. And neither do I. Last month, my grandson asked, "Grandpa, why don't people go to the big park anymore?" I smiled softly. Because some things aren't meant to be taken twice, son. He looked confused, but someday he'll understand. I took him to the oak tree, handed him a small metal box. Inside, my father's original deed and one final letter. "Protect what's yours," I told him. Not with anger, but with wisdom. He nodded, clutching it like a treasure. The sun dipped behind the ridge, painting gold across the closed park beyond. Where others saw an empty monument, I saw victory, the quiet kind that doesn't need applause. Generations later, they'll know the story, how one man lost everything but refused to kneel. My father built it. They stole it. I reclaimed it. Now it stands as truth in soil, unchained, untamed, and forever ours.